I want to talk about what kind of specs you guys are seeing. So there was a VO training facility here in the United States who went to a big VO conference and kind of did a survey of what the topics were being talked about with casting directors and what they saw. And they did like a top 10 list. Like, here are the top 10 things that we got from casting directors when we went to this big conference. And one of them was that casting directors have seen an uptick in the number of requests for male-only voices and requesting more men. And I wanted to hear your take and see if you have something similar, because as we all know, at least here in the United States, the leadership of the country and their attitudes about men, women, all that other stuff kind of dictate things in terms of advertising. So to me, it's not shocking that they're asking for more male voices. What's going on over in your neck of the woods?
Well, luckily, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing a trend either way. It's relatively balanced. Would you agree, Alex?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely more balanced. And even in the sort of American briefs that we're seeing come in, I wouldn't say we're seeing a heavy sort of load on wanting male voices. But what I would say, just on, as you've mentioned, maybe where things are slightly different here, we don't have we don't have Trump. But just going back to that, just on your comment there about people expressing and making it known that this is all created by humans and this is a human voice. What we are seeing is a real drive for quirky, imperfect voices, these real like niche requests for things, so that obviously as soon as someone hears it, they go, that can't be AI. And so I would say now more than ever, there's this need to distinguish yourself as, throw the super polished reels away, because that's where we were, but now we're seeing. Do you agree, Al?
Oh, massively, yeah. I feel like we've been getting a lot of briefs that have been like open to any gender, just someone that is really different, which is great because obviously then we can kind of go in. But yeah, like Siân said, we've definitely seen an increase in people saying we do not want, and I've spoken to a few voices that are like, the amount, if I could have £1 for the amount of times I get a brief that says not like voiceovery or not too commercially. And it's so tricky because it's like, you're kind of, you're trying to sell an ad, but people want that guy next door, the girl next door, someone with a very quirky voice that you can't replicate through AI or through anything else, or someone that's just going to be completely different to whatever you've heard before. So I do feel like we've not received that yet, in terms of we've not seen an influx of a lot of male only casting. It has been a lot of open to either gender or all genders, and which is great. So hopefully we don't start seeing that, because we've won a few big campaigns lately for females as well. So that's it's been amazing. Yeah.
So I will say that trend of different voices or just everyday voices is very, very prevalent here in the US as well. It is frustrating to some voice actors because we have spent so many years on our craft, and they want Deborah from the pretzel shop at the mall. Like, that's what it's coming off as, when really I think what voice actors are struggling with right now is being themselves. So you get this script and you have to read it as yourself, the every average day person, not the actor that you have built yourself to be. And so that's a hard shift. It's a hard shift to happen. I have a question about the nuts and bolts of what you do. So I have been having workshops with casting directors, and I want to provide the Building Doors community as many different vantage points from the industry as possible. So for example, I've had a casting director in one of our workshops walk through her process of when she gets an audition in, what happens, right? So everything from, okay, I send this audition out, to probably 5 or 6 agents. And then I receive about 900 to 1,200 auditions. So I will listen to about that much, but here's the process. The ones that did not label correctly, immediately out, I don't even listen to them. So that, gets away about 25% of the castings, the auditions. Then I listen to the first 3 seconds of what's left. And then I divide it, so on and so forth. Then there are some agents who listen to every single take. They listen to the whole first take and the whole second take. They write notes. They have a scoring system. There are others who hate lead-ins. They do not want to lead in, don't do it. And there are others that, yes, if I'm listening to 1,500 auditions and you don't put a lead in, and the spec was women 30 to 45, guess what? You're all probably going to sound the same, so put a lead in. So tell me about your nuts and bolts process when you get a casting.
Do you want me to go, Alex?
Oh, yeah. No, did I just ask a not good question? What?
No.
It's something that we do so automatically that I'm just trying to think how we break it down. So, I mean, because there's 2 angles as well. You've got, if I was coming at this with my producer head and I was doing a casting, but then we got the agent head. So obviously the agency will receive a casting and we know that it's probably gone to a few different agencies, right? So we will send whatever the casting says, we'll send it to the best matched people in our minds. So and if let's say it's an audition, can you get this audition in? We usually will bring the deadline forward so that we've got time to ask them to do any retakes. I think we're a little bit different from what I've heard, in that most agents don't give much feedback on auditions. Like, they'll just take it and move on. But obviously we want our voices to have the best possible shot at winning the job. So we will send it out, obviously receive the auditions back. I will rename the files if they are named incorrectly, but I will send a little nudge, just like, guys, come on. And then, would listen to the whole thing, send feedback, make sure everything's correct. And then I don't know if you do this, Alex, but I will shortlist what we've been sent. So if there's something that just isn't hitting the mark for me, even after feedback, or it's not quite there, I might not include it in what I send to the client. That being said, if I was casting as a producer, which obviously I did over 10 years prior to Foxy Tongue, I would, if something was named incorrectly, out the door, because I need someone who's paying attention and is gonna treats my time with respect, I think, is part of it. Do you know what I mean? I don't have time to do that. But yeah, it sounds harsh, but you usually will know within the first 3 seconds, and then I would click through. Then I would shortlist those people, and then I would listen to the whole thing to make a decision from there. So it really is, you really do have about 3 seconds to impress someone, which sounds brutal.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, I think, like Shah said, we've got 2 different kind of heads in terms of agency side. We will, like, obviously me and Sean both edit as well. So if we kind of get a reel and we're like, okay, they're like, I don't have time to edit it, or they've sent over 4 takes and we know we only need 2, then I'll cut down and make sure I've got the best 2 takes from the voice, and then edit that, mix, like, kind of export that, mix that out. So yeah, it's tricky because sometimes as well, I think the quality won't be as good. And again, I try to kind of like do a bit more like sound noise cancellation. So we try to just help to make sure that, because if you've got something that's bad quality, obviously we will normally go back to them and say, look, can you just either get a quieter room? Can you redo it because it's too, noisy? If they don't have the time, or if they're away, for instance, then we'll try and help them out. But we normally do listen to the whole thing through as an agent, and then we'll feedback. As a producer, same with me, I would always listen, especially if we got their demo reels. I'll listen to the first 5 seconds, then the middle 5 seconds, and then the end 5 seconds, and then kind of go through that, because especially as a producer, you're so busy, you get so many demos, especially if you've gone to 5 agencies, they've all sent you 10, you need to quickly go through it, shortlist, send it to the client. They want it to go again. You send another, shortlisted few. So it's about saving the producers and the agents time as much as possible to help us out.
And so what do you guys recommend voiceover actors do to stand out?
I mean, I'll say, being responsive is always a winner because, especially when we send auditions or castings, if we haven't heard back, and I do have to I'll get to the night and I know that the auditions are all due by the morning. I'll go through who I've sent it to and haven't even got a reply to. And I'll be like, are you auditioning for this or not? Because it's even to come back and say, yeah, I will, it'll be with you before the deadline, or even, no, I can't. Absolutely fine. We'll never say oh, no, we'll always be absolutely, don't worry about it. So I think definitely being responsive helps. I think, what else, Sean?
My big one is but I've heard other people don't like this, but I love someone who's brave enough to slightly ad lib or has done the work to find the non-obvious read. That for me, if you've heard 50 auditions of this script, the one that's going to stand out is the one that's done something slightly different or changed the intonation there in a slightly more interesting way. That takes work and skill and time, and also knowing when a little ad lib might just elevate something. I love that, and I just think, I'm going to get you in the booth, and you're going to bring a whole new level of creativity to this process. So yeah, I love that. But I've heard some people are really anti ad libs and changes because they're honor the script and it's the client's script, and so I completely see that side of it too, and that's why you have to be really careful as to how far you take it and whether it's a cheeky something that you add on at the end, or actually if it's a character so you can afford to be a bit more playful with it. It's hard to know where the line is. I don't envy you at all.
I think also as well, even not ad-libbing, but if you say, send an audition and they said 2 takes, I think just switch both takes up completely. So do one that's kind of similar to the brief and obviously, matching the brief, and another one that's just a bit rogue, but also works so well with the script. And I think that also really helps, because when you hear that, you're first take, if they change their accent up, if they change this whole style or the tone, I think it's nice, because if you're hearing the same take twice, it almost becomes a bit oh, I've already heard that, but even though it's the same voice.
And so many people do that, don't they? Yeah. I think, why have you done it? The delivery is almost exactly the same. Yeah. But I guess it's just that lack of bravery, and we love a daredevil, don't we?
We do.
So what is your take then? Because in the US, a lot of voice actors do that. They will do the first take exactly to spec. And then the second one, they just put the you, them, the Christy for me, right? I add my spin on it, right? And so what some casting directors and agents are saying is flip-flop it now. Put the rogue one first and the suspect second, because that's one of the ways in the first 3 to 4 seconds that you're going to stand out. What do you guys think of that? Because you are the gatekeepers, right? It's not like the client. Well, that's another question then. Oh my gosh. So that's part one of my question, which is, do you think that people should put the rogue one first? And then second question is, there are agents who just due to the sheer volume of what they're working with, will set up drop boxes for their client. They send out the audition, they put the Dropbox link out, and voice actors immediately go in and start putting their auditions in. And it is kind of like a P2P in some ways, where the faster you get in, the more likely you are to be heard, because the client has direct access and immediately starts listening. There is no vetting, they don't have time. And so there's something to be said of, well, if you go back to my first part of the question where you flip and you go rogue first, but the client is the one listening, So what do you guys think of all of that?
Yeah, I think it depends with that in terms of flipping, because I think if you've gone rogue, but it's not good, like it's not as good as the, you know, the kind of 2-spec ad, I think that's when obviously there could then be issues. If you've gone rogue and it's like amazing and it's so different, then brilliant. I think it just depends. But I think also with your second question, we wouldn't personally do that, because I think we like to get it back, listen to it, feedback to them, say, hey, you know, could you maybe try a different take like this? Or that's working really well, but why don't, you know, you flip the takes around, stuff like that. I think if we had our voices, even though obviously we trust our voices implicitly, if they were putting it into the Dropbox link, it's nice for us to feedback. That's part of the job that me and Siân love so much. So I think we would miss out on that kind of that chat between our voices to say like, oh, you nailed it, or, you know, things like that.
I think as on that first question, it depends how rogue you've gone as to whether someone's going to listen to 3 seconds and go, this isn't what I've asked for at all. And I think potentially the way to curb or to help yourself answer that question is looking at going back to that brief, and it's about determining how concise it is. Is it concise because this client knows exactly what they want, or is it vague because they're not actually quite sure what they want, and so there's room actually for you to play? And you'll find that most clients don't actually really know what they want until they hear it. And your instinct, because you do this all the time and you know what you book, will probably be right. And I think trust that, because there's been times when I've seen stuff on TV that we've put our voices up for, and I think that's not the brief we received. And actually it just was that next level of, you know, someone had just tweaked something slightly. And so I think that's part of it, is look at the brief and trust your gut. Do they actually know what they want? Or does your reading of this lend to actually there's probably room here for me to, you know, I don't know, expand and stuff. So yeah, that's a good tip one to help make the decision.